live version of the Mindful CEO, which we do from time to time at random times whenever I find a guest that's interesting enough that we want to just riff for 30 minutes or so on something that would add value to everyone who considers themselves a CEO of something. You don't have to be a business person or in sales or any particular thing, but just are you the CEO of your life? Let's go. And so today's guest is Dave Kahle, and I'll let Dave introduce himself as the way he wants to be introduced, the way he would have something to say. But we had a great conversation on his podcast, and we really hit it off. And I thought this is a really useful conversation. So, Dave, why don't you tell people what you do, where you are, and who you are?
Yeah, well, boy. So let's see. I'm currently in Sarasota, Florida. My wife and I have been snowbirds between Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sarasota for 20-some years, and now we are permanent residents in Florida. So I don't know what that makes me, but it's
you're a Florida man now, dude.
Pardon me?
Now you're a Florida man.
Yeah, I am. I sure am. Yeah. So anyway, I've had a career. So I had I think 3 different careers, and my most recent was around age 40. I began to consult and public speak in the area of business-to-business sales. And over the years, I wrote and authored 13 books, 5 of which have gone worldwide and are available in different countries and languages and so on. Spoken in 47 states and 11 countries. And produce these days I consider myself a content creator more than anything. And I have a couple e-zines, a couple podcast shows, a YouTube channel, et cetera, all that stuff. And my interest is, as I shared with you, Aaron, I have several interests. B2B sales is, I'm sort of a guru, honestly, on B2B sales and sales systems. I do a lot of work with sales systems and sales structure, which is a new concept for a lot of people. And thinking, I'm really interested in helping people think better. And I think that's what brings us together today.
Yeah, very much so. Before we dive into that, Dave, the whole thing with thinking, talk to me a little bit about sales structure, what makes that new. I'm interested in that world.
Yeah, well, I use an example of a race car. Let's say you inherited a whole bunch of money. You've always been interested in NASCAR. You decided you're gonna be a NASCAR guy, and so you decided you'd first have to get a car, and you'd understand. You get the car is one thing, get the best car you can, and then you'd have to get a pit crew and a set of drivers, and all that stuff. But you would clearly understand they're 2 separate things. I mean, the car is one thing, and the people are something else. And if you have the greatest car in the world but lousy people, it's not going to go anywhere. If you have great people but flat tires on the car, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's the combination, both the car and people, that make for a winning combination. So it is with sales. I like to say this: the structure is like the car. It's everything about sales, the way sales is done in your organization, other than the people. So, for example, the way you have your territories or responsibilities defined, who does what. Your sales compensation plan is a huge piece. Your training program, how do you train and develop people? How do you manage people? What are the routines? What are the expectations for reporting and planning and so on? I mean, it just goes on and on. We have a list of about 25 different things that we look at when we assess the structure of an organization. And so many people just focus on getting better people. Okay, that's important, but it's not the whole thing. And as a consultant, I'm amazed. I can come into a company, make significant changes in their sales. I mean, sometimes dramatic changes, and never talk to the salespeople, because it's all about structure. And for the most part, most companies, the structure is never strategically put in place. It's a vestige of years gone by. Yeah. Somewhere, somebody a few years ago or 20 years ago decided to do this way, and no one's ever questioned it. And so all these structural pieces are vestiges for the most part, Yeah.
That's good. It's like cutting the ends off ham. You ever hear that story?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very much. When you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I bet. No, very few companies create their sales from the ground up with a blank slate, and
Yeah.
if they did, how often do they review those for the current market conditions?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I would suspect there are far more effective salespeople trapped in shitty structures
Yeah.
than there
Yeah.
are structures that work.
Yeah.
That the limiter is that they haven't found the right people.
Yeah. 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 So can I give you a case study?
Sure,
I mean,
love to.
this is a great.
Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah.
This was a company in Central America, and they had a sales force between, I think, 4 countries. They had a sales force about 30 people, and they were losing money and really weren't sure why. I came in and looked at the structure, and what I found was that salespeople thought their job was to collect an order, go back to the office, put the order in, and then call the customer and let them know what was going to be there and when. That's what they thought their job was. And they thought they were doing an excellent job, although they were not profitable and the company was losing money. So we just made a couple simple changes. We said, that's not your job. Your job is to bring in profitable business, and we're going to help you do that because we're going to take away all the small accounts. You can no longer call on them. You only call on the larger ones. And we're going to change the compensation plan to reward you for building the business in large accounts. So we're not going to give you a percentage of every dollar. We're going to give you a percentage of the increase because we want you to increase sales. And that's it. Never talk to salespeople. Made those 2 changes, and like 6 months later, I mean, the thing had gone crazy. They were profitable. They were growing just because of a change in 2 things: the compensation plan and the definition of what the salesperson's job was. And when we changed that, changed everything. That's an example.
Perfect. All right. Well, then that would tie right into thinking fast and slow.
Yeah.
Because I would my take on that is the vestiges, the lack of intentional design is a function of system one. Fucking just get it done. We have a system. We don't need to rethink it. Come on, let's just get out there and hit the streets.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your take on system one or thinking fast and slow.
Yeah. Well, so definition system one is quick and what's the word? Not thoughtful. And the example is 2 and 2. You don't have to think. You don't have to think about that. It's 4, right? You just kind of intuitive and quick. The issue with that, I mean, it's intuitive and it's quick, but it's often not accurate. And system 2 is slow thinking. So we have fast and slow thinking, and slow thinking is where you stop and think through a process. So my issue is always practical. I look at it from the practical point of view. Okay, what value are those concepts for the average CEO or the average professional? And it occurs to me that there's 2 areas there that are often areas for improvement. And one is that we use fast thinking for projects that ought to be slow thinking. And an example, like a compensation plan is a good example. So that's a very common project for me to help a company refine a sales compensation plan. And typically, the executives will say, well, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. I think we should do this. In other words, jump right to the conclusion. So we need to refine the sales compensation plan. So let's jump to the solution because I feel this, I think that, boom, boom, boom. And my approach is stop. We're gonna work through a process. We're not going to use fast thinking. We're going to use slow thinking, in other words, although I don't say those words. And so we create a process and think through the process. So 2 issues. One is we use fast thinking on situations where we should use slow thinking, and that compensation plan is a great example. And the other is we don't do fast or we don't do slow thinking well enough because we've never been taught to do it well. So I have 2 issues in regards to fast and slow thinking. One is we use fast where we shouldn't, and 2 is we don't use slow as well as we should.
Yeah, there's an example of that fast thinking, that where it does, so the 2 + 2 = 4 is the obvious one that works, but the example that's used all the time is, Kahneman's example is a bat and a ball. That the bat cost $1 more than the ball. The total bat and ball combo is $1.10.
Okay.
The bat cost $1 more than the ball.
Okay.
What's the ball cost?
10.
Yeah, that's the fast thinking.
Yeah.
That's the fast thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The bat cost $1 more than the ball.
Oh, okay.
So you can't get there from there.
Yeah. Good.
The quick logic is 10. Everyone says that because
Yeah.
that's the 2 + 2. No, the ball is 5 cents because the bat cost $1 more than the ball. So the bat would then be $1.05.
Yeah. Right. Good.
But you can't get there from fast thinking.
Yeah.
Fast thinking is going to get you the wrong answer every time, and that is prototypical. That's Kahneman's example. That's from Kahneman.
Yeah.
Because fast thinking is fast but not accurate.
Yeah. Right.
And on very simple problems, it's fine. And the problem is people will fight to the death over their conclusion, because then as soon as you get an answer, then confirmation bias kicks in.
Yes, exactly.
And these are not, they're not, these are traits, habits. They're not characteristics. It's not like 6 to 2. You're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to change your eye color.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a characteristic. These are habits.
Mm-hmm.
The heuristics that we use were designed through natural selection. Confirmation bias keeps us in a tribe of people that think like us and keep us from being kicked out of the tribe. They're all useful to keep us surviving.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not useful to have us thrive. They're not useful to have us create something new. We have to find a way to slow down. Any other examples, or Dave, any other way that you've seen that impact people?
Well, I think you summarized it pretty well, Aaron. And so, and my work these days is to do two things: is to make people aware of the need for slow thinking, and work on ways to improve one's ability to think slowly. So again, I'm always a practical guy, and so I look at it from the practical point of view. How can we use these concepts to do better? And those are the two places I see.
Yeah, good. And that's, in my experience, that's been one of the main advantages that people who learn to meditate get, is that they're activating their slow thinking and they're quieting their system one. They're just quieting it for a minute, and it carries over. That slowness carries over even when you're not meditating. You wind up with a slower brain. The problem is when you say that you're going to wind up with a slower brain, those people you pitch, I know it has to be, they're afraid that if they slowed the brain down, they would lose their competitive advantage.
Yeah.
People are afraid, if I become satisfied in the moment, I will lose the edge it took me to acquire what I've acquired.
Unfortunately, a lot of people think that their habit of fast thinking is something to be is praiseworthy. It's to be proud of. They're proud of the fact that they can jump to conclusions and get to the end quickly. And again, unfortunately, maybe sometimes they're right. Probably sometimes they're right, but overall they're not going to be as accurate. They're not going to be as good as they could be if they just took a deep breath and slowed down and add some process. One of the things about slow thinking is that it's process. It's a process oriented.
Yes.
So we don't jump to a conclusion. We have a conclusion in mind. We have a solution in mind, although we might not be able to articulate it. That's okay. It's going to come later. But instead of jumping to the solution, let's create a process to get to there. And that process is, of course, one of the key aspects of slow thinking. Is we're not going to jump to it. We're going to work through it. We're going to work through a process.
Yeah, it's particularly you hear this all the time in sports. I mean, I love it when my team has a process. You know, this is a really big one in Seattle. So I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan, and the Super Bowl where Russell Wilson threw the ball and didn't give it to Marshawn Lynch on the goal line. The common response, Dave, your sound is a little funky. There's like an echo from me speaking, and I don't know if it's from your speakers or something.
I don't know. Let's see.
How's that? Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, the common reaction to that, the normal reaction, is should have handed it off to Marshawn.
Yeah.
That's everyone thinks that. Except if you looked at the process of the thinking there to throw it on that down, the process would always lead you to throw the ball on that down. Given the timeouts, the situation, Marshawn had fumbled several times on the goal. There was just lots of implications that would leave you with a pass play was the right call. It was the worst possible outcome that you could have had. But the process, the thinking of it, to throw it versus, I mean, maybe not even throwing it there. That particular play may not have been the right process, but the process that would lead you to throw it was 100% the right process. And I'm a Seahawks fan and a Marshawn fan, and I will live with that. That was the right call and the worst possible outcome. But we tend to fast thinking over values outcome and undervalues process.
Yeah. So one of the little tools that I think is helpful to throw into this mix is an acronym I call COPS, C-O-P-S.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you what else you got.
Yeah, COPS. So COPS is an acronym that help you determine when to use slow thinking. So when your project, I call it a thinking project. Okay, when your thinking project is complex, complex, which means it's made up of several subunits, sub-processes. So it's a complex issue. That's one. Number two, is it ongoing? So, for example, in one of my articles, I talk about if you are attending a wedding and taking pictures, that's probably not an ongoing process. You do it once, maybe every few years. It's not something you do all the time. But if you're a wedding photographer taking pictures, that's an ongoing thing. So you sure better think about how to do that well, because it's complex and ongoing. What else? Passion evoking. So if this particular project is really, you're passionate about it for whatever reason, that goes a long way to saying maybe you ought to slow down and think about it well. And the last thing is it important? Is it significant? COPS, is it significant? And my definition of that is it has a significant impact on one person or more person's lives. Is it going to have is it going to make a difference in somebody's life? So if the situation meets those criteria, it doesn't have to meet all of them. It's not hard and fast, but it gives you a real good track to run on to determine. Wait a minute, I should slow down here and think this thing through before I just jump to a conclusion. COPS. Yeah,
that's great. I love that I mean, you'd have to have already engaged slow thinking to even consider COPS.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, you already got to be in the world of that. I have a choice. I have agency over my attention here.
Yes.
And if you're not in that world and you're just constantly reactive, this sounds like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, but you're not going to practice it all.
Right.
Are there practices? I mean, I'm a meditation evangelist at this point.
Yeah.
I can't be at a party where I don't hear someone talking over the corner of the room and I don't think, have you tried meditation? So that's just my go-to.
Yeah.
And probably now it's already turned into system one for me, saying that. So I'm interested. What are the alternatives to have someone who you want to work with them and you want to have slow their thinking down so that they could use COPS as a frame? What are the things you have people practice so that they can do that?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of habits that are simple, easily built that will make a difference. And one of them is just to ask about process. Is there a process that I can use to get to a solution? Rather than what's the solution? The question should not be what's the solution. The question should be what's the process to get to the solution. So that question, asking that question is will make a huge difference just by itself.
Yeah,
because it raises the specter of process rather than, and that's slow thinking. So that's one. Here's a simple one. Gee, this is so simple, and people kind of struggle against it. And that's this: write it down. Write it down. Why? Well, because writing forces commitment. When you write it, those are your words on paper. They live. They exist beyond you. So there's a commitment there, and it's precision, and it's editable. So you can say, I think the solution is this, and then you can look at it and say, well, wait a minute. And somebody else can look at it and edit it and make some changes and suggestions and so on. And that simple little thing, write it down, forces a higher degree of mental work because it's precise and it forces commitment and it's editable. So there's two. Here's probably one of the biggest, and that's this: ask the right questions.
Yeah.
What a thing that is. So one of my books for salespeople is called "Question Your Way to Sales Success." It's all about asking questions in the sales process. But a question is, I believe, the single most powerful thinking tool. Because here's why: when you ask a question, they think of the answer. When you ask yourself a question, you think of the answer. See, it prompts thinking. So let's just explore that a little bit. So the language in a question then becomes incredibly important. Because if you ask yourself the question one word off, you're directed in the wrong place, in the wrong way. So spend time creating the questions that you ask others or you ask yourself. And there's a couple simple little things everybody can do, right? They can do this today. They can prove this today, and it will make a difference in their thinking, their ability to use slow thinking. All those are sort of requirements or aspects of slow thinking.
That's really important. That's great. I've been framing things in the context of curiosity, and that's the opportunity to, again, if you can just get a little bit of space to be curious, you've now slowed the whole thing down. And that's you're never going to eliminate system one thinking. It's not going to go away.
Right.
But you can slow down enough to move from what I would call as thoughting into thinking. Having thoughts. Everyone, how much does the bat cost? $1. That's having a thought.
Yeah.
No thinking involved.
Yeah.
No thinking required. So it really is it's useful to I hear this, Dave, in the title of your book, and it's a very useful orientation to life. To just maintain curiosity. It's there's a mindfulness practice that Ellen Langer, sort of the godmother of mindfulness in the U.S., is famous for. It's notice 3 new things. When you brush your teeth, can you notice something new on your face?
Mm.
Can you notice 3 new things in any environment?
Mm-hmm.
And just that, just the looking to find something new, because this is, I think, where our Venn diagram of your work and my work really overlap, is that we both believe that the only thing that produces results is action.
Mm-hmm.
If you want new results, you have to take new actions.
Mm-hmm.
We only act on the way things seem to us,
Mm-hmm.
the way things look to us. You know,
Mhm.
like if Rafael Nadal, sorry, if that's his name, right? Rafael Nadal? Yeah. If Rafael Nadal serves me a ball, it looks like a bullet, and my actions mean duck. You know, but if he serves that to Roger Federer sees, oh, I can hit that. His
Mhm.
actions are different. So action produces a result. New actions are required to produce new results. Given we only act on things we see and how we see them, if
Mhm.
we want new actions, we have to see things newly.
Yes.
We can't operate
Yes.
from seeing the same old things, which
Yeah.
your questioning calls out.
Yeah.
You are calling that out. You're saying, no, question your environment.
Yeah.
Find 3 new things. Let's see something new here. And you
So
have to.
so as a sales trainer, I spent years training salespeople, and I formulated some thoughts about learning. And I say people don't hire me to train salespeople; they hire me to change their behavior. It's a different, that's a different thing. So in my vernacular, learning for an adult on the job is equivalent to behavior change. And if you have not changed your behavior, then you have not learned.
Great.
And so in that sense, I'm a behavioralist, hard and fast. That's my definition. And I'll have somebody come up at the end of a seminar or a break at a seminar and say something like, "Oh, this was so good. I learned so much." And I don't say this because it would be rude,
Yes,
but I think it. And what I think is, you don't know that you've learned anything.
that's right.
You can see me a month or two from now and show me what you're doing differently. If you're
100%.
doing it differently, then you have learned. But if you're not, then you haven't. We've just kind of wasted our time here together.
100% with you. We used to have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
rule. One of my mentors used to have rules like you can share an insight that you had only after you've produced a new result.
Mm.
I'm not interested in your insights
Mhm.
until you've applied it to life and produced something that you wouldn't have produced otherwise.
Mm.
Then you got something to share. But that I get that all the time. Thank you. This was so eye-opening, or this was so impactful.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. And,
I
and honestly, you don't know either.
I appreciate the idea, but that's the difference. That's really, and you and I are on the same page on this, why I really dislike motivational speakers.
Yeah.
I think motivation is bullshit. I mean, it's fine, but I guess it's better than resignation, but it's not wildly better than resignation. It's not, one hand, it's just sort of false hope because, okay, you're motivated, but now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are you going to be when that client hangs up on you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are you going to be when you are staring at the list of people to call and you've just had 6 no's?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Right? What are you motivated? And I don't. My rule of thumb used to be, or my mnemonic used to be: inspiration follows perspiration.
Yeah.
That I don't. Kobe used to say, I don't negotiate with myself. If I say I'm gonna practice, I practice.
Yeah.
And if I say I'm going to the gym, I go to the gym, and I don't worry. I'm always inspired after I go to the gym. After I go to the gym,
Yeah.
the
Right.
best.
Yeah.
5 a.m. Very rarely am I motivated.
Yeah. People would always ask me, "Are you a motivational speaker?"
Yes.
And I would say, "No, I'm not. I don't. First of all, I don't think I can motivate anyone. If you want to motivate somebody, discover the motivation that's inside them and unleash that it already exists."
Yes.
And I don't know that as a speaker I can do that. I used to say I'm an educational speaker. I think if I can show someone, if they can learn how to do something and feel like they can, that's motivational in itself.
Yes.
So yeah, we have the same thoughts on
Yes.
motivation.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
It's really great. Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to talk to you, they want to read
Yeah.
your books, what's the best way for people to get
Yeah,
in touch with you?
www.davekahle.com. That's KAHLE.com. All my stuff's there, so
Excellent.
yeah.
Any last nuggets or, things that people could take on or try today that would leave them in this world?
Yeah. Well, I think I just reemphasize what we've already talked about, that cops, it's a good way to make some distinctions and when you should slow down and then write it down, ask the process question. Don't ask what's the solution, ask how do I get to the solution? And that's a great example of the question. You ask the right question. Don't ask the right question. And if you ask what's the solution, it's the wrong question. Ask what's the process to get to the solution. That's a better question. So asking questions, and I have often thought, as a matter of fact, I think this has appeared several times in my writing, that is the definition of good thinking is to ask yourself the right questions in the right sequence and write down the answers. That's it.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna leave it right there. Dave, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate all the work you do in the world, empowering people to actually live the kind of lives that they're committed to living versus the life that they wound up with. And I just really appreciate you very, very, very much. Thank you for being here.